Welcome to Business Beyond Borders, the go-to podcast for CPA firms seeking transformative insights. I'm your host, Laurence Whittam, and with each episode we'll uncover key insights, best practices, and invaluable resources tailored for CPAs. From trending strategies to diving deep into outsourcing and offshoring, our experts will help in all areas of your business. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Business Beyond Borders. So we have a cool episode here today with Jeff Panik, who he's a financial advisor, right? And he works with Balanced Wealth Partners. And we're going to have a bit of a conversation discussing a few areas as to how you can work as a CPA, how you can work with a financial advisor, but also sharing some experience that Jeff's had in terms of really becoming that true advisor to your clients, how firms need to sort of step up and step into the relationship aspect with some of their clients to be that trusted advisor. And with doing so, you're going to create a lot more stickiness with your clients, right? And be able to work with the family as a whole in a lot of cases and really be that true advisor, true first person of contact the individual or business will have when they're having problems, right? Which is an important factor for CPAs to focus on. So without further ado, Jeff, very nice to have you on. Thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for having me, Laurence.
And would love to let you give a bit of your background and sort of explain sort of how you got to where you have with Balanced Wealth Partners.
Yeah, so I'm an independent financial advisor. I've been in the financial services industry for over 25 years. I'm a certified financial planner and have several other designations. And I really specialize in dealing with families and small business owners. And so in a lot of cases, I really partner with other professionals, accountants, attorneys. And, I've kind of seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you will, over the years of, various relationships as it relates to families and how they view their advisor. And I know when we were initially talking about a few different things, I think there is some value to talk about just as you mentioned, stickiness and really some just points that I've found over the years to really try to be, or you want to try to get to be the go-to advisor or professional that the family or business thinks about when they have a question or an issue.
So when I think about financial advisors, right, I automatically think more so towards an advisor, right, with families in terms of they communicate very well with the clients, right? It's regular checkups. There's a system. You feel very comfortable doing it. When it comes to CPA firms, it's less comfortable reaching out, right? I think there's sometimes a lot of clients that they work with simply on a seasonal basis to do the tax returns, when I think there's been a big push in the profession to really go above and beyond that, right? And step out of the comfort zone and really be that advisor. Go and reach out on a monthly or quarterly basis, just from a check-in perspective, see if there's areas you can help. And that will create a lot of value, right, on both sides. So can you share a bit about that element when it comes to you?
Sure. And I mean, there's been numerous studies that have been presented that have discussed just as businesses transition to the next generation, just the amount of turnover as it relates to the professionals that the new owners really function with and deal with. And so one of the ways really to avoid that is really to build a relationship and just let them know, if they have an issue, concern, they can reach out. And just by doing some simple things, you can create a certain level of stickiness and really provide a little bit more value from the perspective of the relationship. And when I say stickiness, really it's a matter of you want to try to get to know their family. Little things like people don't really do very often anymore is just if they have a birthday, and it may not be every year, but if you have some time and it's their birthday, if you have a list, just give them a call on their birthday and wish them a happy birthday. Just simply thinking of them, when a lot of people, other professionals, other people they deal with wouldn't even bother picking up the phone or even sending even a card. Doing little things like that really helps to, kind of, I would say, helps from the perspective of a transition where the new, the old owner that is your client can help just introduce you to the new owner. The other thing would be, I always say, the better you can build the relationship, it makes it a lot easier if there's ever an issue, and there's always issues, where they can say, well, we had an issue here, but I value the relationship that we have, and we can kind of work through it.
So, and when you're working with, let's say, like more so with the family, right? And again, you mentioned about like a transition of a business as well, and having them introduce you to the new owner in a lot of cases, right? But a lot of things are running within families too. And you mentioned when we were speaking about the importance of, yes, you may have one relationship or a main relationship within the organization or within the family, but really going out of the way to even talk to other family members, other people that are partners in the business, right? And really trying to spread out essentially the tentacles within there to create more stickiness. Like, what are ways that firms can do that?
I mean, one of the best ways to do it is to set up a breakfast lunch and essentially make it what I would call a family meeting, and really invite the stakeholders, whether it's in the case of a small business, the key people, in the case of a family, the children, adult children, people that may be at some point taking over the relationship. And then at the same time, really if they do set up a family meeting, helping the client really structure it so that it will get the desired effect. And a lot of times, if you don't use an agenda, which I would always say would be a cornerstone of the meeting or any meeting, so that everybody can kind of walk through the bullet points and understand the direction, you really can deviate into the weeds and create more problems for yourself than you had before you even suggested the family meeting. But setting up breakfast lunch with key people, or even going to their office and just bringing lunch, setting up a date for that to happen, doing that occasionally can go a long way for you to meeting other key people. And as the business transitions, or as the family transitions to the next generation, they potentially can think of you as a resource if they have issues that present themselves.
Where do you fit into it when you're working with, let's say, the CPA firms in a lot of cases, right? I mean, is it that you're working directly with them to help, like the CPA themselves, to help sort of become that true advisor, and you're sort of like helping them with certain aspects of it, and they are, we'll say, white label to some extent, right? And you're in the background, or do you generally go in and you are sort of the front end to a lot of the clients, but you keep them in the loop?
Exactly. I would say that would be the relationship where, I would say it's like a football analogy, kind of like a quarterback, if you will, where I try to, navigate the communication cycle, whether, I'll use the example of 1099, various documents that sometimes get lost in translation, during tax time, making sure that, I'm available if there's a question, if they do need to do contributions, just making sure everyone is on the same page, and I've had situations where I've had other, prospects and people that I've met, where they weren't really communicating properly with the different individuals, and they end up making, in some cases, multiple contributions to their accounts. They end up, not sending the correct documents, and they end up, a few years later getting IRS notices, and that everybody just is getting frustrated.
And what does that relation, like, what's the advantage to a firm, right, working with yourself, or somebody else on the wealth management side of things? Like, what's that true advantage of doing so?
So I would think the advantage is, like a lot of things these days, a lot of firms are trying to go up market. A lot of firms are trying to be the one, I would say the one-stop shop, if you will. And so, having relationships with other professionals that you can feel comfortable with, and usually I'll have 2 or 3 people, professionals, whether it's an estate and trust attorney, attorney, a CPA, that I can refer clients, that I can feel comfortable, really that they're going to get the service and advice that they need. And really it goes back to the fact that if you're not proactive with them, someone more than likely is going to try to disintermediate you from them, especially the more valuable the revenue stream or the relationship is.
What are some of the, I guess, key identifying factors for firms to even think about in terms of, okay, here's my client base, right? What are some of those key identifying factors for them to say, you know what, it's worth the time and effort to go and have a conversation with somebody like Jeff, for example, right? Because it's going to be valuable for my 10% of my clients, 15% of my clients. Like, what are some of those factors to look out for during meetings?
Well, I would think one of the things is, there's some things that are kind of, I wouldn't say more obvious, where, they're just not getting the right advice. And I can look at sometimes and say, well, if you have a client and they have huge amounts of capital gains every year, it may be say, well, have you spoken to your advisor about this? Or, if they've even thought about making contributions, or, what are some ways to better manage their overall portfolio? If there appears to be certain things that are kind of lacking, it's one thing to maybe say, well, maybe get a review. It doesn't hurt. And at the same time, I think you can kind of express value there by suggesting it. And, and the main thing is to be independent and impartial, and really try to provide value, and not just be there to collect the documents and file their return.
Would you typically sit with any CPA partners to understand, sort of and go over, let's say, clients that they have in advance, or do you generally get introduced and then have the conversation with the individuals to identify whether they're the right ones? What does that makeup look like traditionally?
I think it's usually usually a little bit different. There's sometimes I'm doing the introduction, and usually what I'll do is I'll sit into the meetings that I introduce the professionals to see, make sure the client is comfortable and make sure that everybody is on the same page. And then, I won't say I'll help them make the decision, but I'll help point them in the right direction. If they say, well, I like this person, but I'm not sure about this one, or, what is your feedback? I'll provide feedback. The other side of it, I'll just say, here's some common things that I've seen in the past, where, someone in my position can add value, and some other areas where, if, as I mentioned before, if the professional is not making these suggestions and, getting involved more, rather than just being, just doing transactions where you're filing returns, eventually someone else is going to probably try to get into the relationship or the fray.
Now, as we talk a little bit again about the stickiness, right? Getting sticky with your clients, what are some of the elements that you've seen or dealt with which has really helped sort of get in there? And again, create just more collaboration opportunities with clients and individuals that you've worked with.
Yes. I would say it's really, you really want to kind of target for what they're trying to do, or solve for what they're trying to do. Whether they have a business, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to grow the business? Are they trying to transition it? If it's a family, are they figuring out ways or thinking about ways to get, the resources and the assets to future generations? And then once you understand that, if you can try to help provide help provide the resources, I would say, and other professionals, and just offer that as an option, and it's not like, you may offer it and they may not take you up on it. But if, occasionally doing that can go a long way, where, you get in a situation where one of the biggest things that I see where there's not a real transition plan for the business owner and for the family. How are you going to transition the assets? The owner, family member says, I'll get around to that at some point, but they never do. And, it's important to remind them that even if nothing happens, it's important to have the comfort of having that in place.
No, that's great. And Jeff, as we sort of start to wrap up, do you want to give just I know that if I remember correctly, you wrote a book as well, right, in public.
Yes.
So maybe just give a little bit about that, and then also just a little bit more about Balanced Wealth Partners, right, and ways that you can work with firms specifically and individuals, and that would be great. And then we'll sort of wrap up in that way.
That's perfect. Yeah. So I wrote a book for young adults called Your Future Is Now, and it really is a blueprint to help them progress throughout their young life, learning about just simple things that sometimes you take advantage, like how do you buy or lease a car? When do you get off your parents' plan? And I've made it so that it's helpful for both the young adult and the parent, and really as a bridge to bridge conversation. And I think there's a fair amount of value given the lack of really resources and education these days in financial literacy, and the importance to start out in the right direction. And as it relates to Balanced Wealth Partners, it's an independent firm, act as a fiduciary and always have the client's best interest in mind. And I think if you can do that, you'll be successful in business and in life.
What's the best place where people can find you?
Sure.
If they want to reach out and have a bit of a chat.
Sure. So you can go to my website, balancedwealthpartners.com. You can also Google my name. My last name's Panik, Panik. So as you might imagine, it's kind of a unique name. So there's not too many Jeffrey Paniks out there.
Cool. No, we'll post the links to LinkedIn and the business site as well, right? So that everybody can reach out if there's any questions that come up. Mm-hmm. And really, really appreciate you sharing some advice around this area, because I think there's a lot of opportunities for firms to really focus on becoming that true advisor, right? And they need a bit of guidance, like in some cases, as to how to do that, right? So this has been super helpful. And we hope everybody had a good episode today on Business Beyond Borders, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Thanks, Laurence.
Thank you for tuning in to Business Beyond Borders. I'm Laurence Whittam, and it's been a pleasure bringing you impactful insights tailored for the modern CPA firm. Remember, the world of accounting is vast and ever-evolving, and we're here to navigate it together. For more resources and episodes, don't forget to subscribe and reach out to our experts. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of your business and explore the limitless possibilities beyond borders.